A few moments later.
So disclaimer, I'm not a therapist, but I do have a lot of experience with therapists related to eating issues. So this is just gonna be my take and my experiences and what has personally helped me as somebody who has struggled with not only emotional eating in the past, but also an eating disorder. These things kind of mix together sometimes, so I'm just gonna cover it all. If you have struggled with emotional eating, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, don't feel like, oh, I emotionally eat, like I'm terrible. No, a lot of the things that cause emotional eating are taught to us. Many people are taught to ignore their hunger cues and are also taught to use food as some sort of like a reward system, and that can kind of disconnect us, like our mind and our body disconnected. So in a nutshell, what is emotional eating? Emotional eating is eating when you're not hungry and fueled by emotions. A lot of times this looks like eating to cope with something, eating as a coping skill. But it's not all a mental battle. Some of it is actually tied to like physical cues. Kinda. I think most of it though, for most people, is a taught thing. For example, when I was about, I wanna say like 9 years old, I was really sad about something. I don't even remember what I was sad about. And I turned to my dad and I was like, Dad, I need to go get some ice cream. And he was like, why do you want ice cream? And I was like, well, I'm sad, and that's what people do when they're sad, they eat ice cream. And so that's not a natural human thing. Humans aren't just like, I'm sad, ice cream fix. That was taught to me. That was taught to me like culturally through like movies and shows and whatnot. And it was very normalized for me that I saw people eat when they're sad, so that's what I should do to feel better. This isn't necessarily a exhaustive list, but just some common ones. Stress. A lot of people eat when they're stressed. Some people don't. Some people don't eat when they're stressed. It's kind of, you know, a personal thing. Dieting, especially dieting extremely. One thing people don't always realize is when you're dieting, you're depriving your body of something it needs to function. Your body at some point is going to reach a breaking point, and it's going to signal to you to eat, and to eat a lot. And a third cause is using food as a reward or associating food with emotions. This is something taught to a lot of us in childhood, like, oh, you did something good, here's a cookie. So you kind of associate food with positive things. Food does give you like dopamine, like chemically, it's rewarding. And also if you're pairing that with food as a reward, doubly, you see food as something good. And it is good. Just sometimes it can be harmful. That being said, food is tied heavily to positive social interactions. That's one thing that I don't think you should really stop necessarily. Just if it's triggering to you or causes you to act out or binge or not be able to control yourself, then it's good to be aware of that. But otherwise, food is very integral in many cultures and positive experiences. So food as a reward is like a little tricky one. Kind of just assess at your own best discretion. Again, not an exhaustive list, but signs of emotional eating include a sudden urge to eat. Actual physical hunger usually doesn't come on like that. If you're in a setting like you're working on your computer and you realize you're getting a little bit stressed and then all of a sudden you're like, bam, I need food. Probably not. You probably don't actually need it. You're probably just about to emotionally eat. Another sign, eating past the point of physical fullness. This is another one that's difficult because many of us are taught to ignore our physical hunger cues. Like when you're hungry, people will be like, you know, ignore it basically. Or when you're full, a lot of people will be like, oh, the food's so good, I'm just going to keep eating it. Eventually, after you've been taught to like ignore your cues for so long, it's very difficult to identify them. But if you're constantly getting to the point of after you eat, you're like, I'm in pain, I'm way past the point of being full. You need to think about that. Another sign of emotional eating is feeling guilty about eating. And that is kind of at least where I start forming the line of, you might have an eating disorder because you need food. And if you're feeling guilty about something that is very necessary, that sounds like a problem. Being stressed, being bored, being sad, and also being happy. If you're watching this, you probably don't need me to tell you why you should stop, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, why you should stop emotional eating. It can be very uncomfortable, both physically and emotionally. It can really damage your relationship with your body and with food. And that sucks, because you need food and you only have your one body, so. And also, if you're regularly emotionally eating, you just create this harmful pattern. So it's best to just nip it in the bud. Again, these are just suggestions in my experience and the experience of those around me that I have gathered that is very helpful. Make sure you're eating enough throughout the day. And that one is kind of difficult for some people, especially if they're like trying to be in a calorie deficit, trying to lose weight, XYZ. You can't be in too steep of a calorie deficit, okay? Because then you're just gonna create this cycle of restricting. Eventually you'll reach your breaking point. You binge. A lot of times the binge isn't really a binge, but people still think it's a binge. It might, okay, one way or another, you overeat, you're uncomfortable, you feel bad, so then you restrict. And you start this cycle. When if you had just been fueling your body a little bit more appropriately from the beginning, the food wouldn't have been the issue. For some people, tracking their food can be very helpful in this instance because you might not even really be paying attention to when you're eating. So like setting a timer, making sure you eat lunch at the same time every day. That can be very helpful. Pre-preparing your meals so you're not scrambling. Another thing you can do is practice mindfulness. Mindfulness around emotional eating can include identifying your trigger points. So you know when you get on your computer to work, you're about to be stressed and you're probably gonna wanna grab a little snack. And then you're gonna eat a family-sized bag of chips. And then you're not gonna feel good. It's good to identify that. Mindfulness can also include checking in with your body. Before you partake in your snack, if you decide to partake, check in with yourself. Take some deep breaths, feel your body. Try to assess your hunger on a scale of 1 to 10, or whatever scale you wanna use. It's good to be, aware of where we are, especially when we're trying to reconnect our mind and our body. Now let's say hypothetically you are in one of these situations where you do emotionally eat. What you should not do is punish yourself. It's okay. It's okay if you messed up. Everybody messes up. I don't talk about it like a ton publicly, but I had a very tumultuous relationship with food for years. It took me a while to get used to these things. I don't know. So don't punish yourself. Don't restrict. Just get back to like a normal eating pattern again, because if you restrict, that's when you're gonna start that cycle. Also, don't dwell on it. I feel like for a lot of people, when they do something like that and then they just feel like terrible, it's really hard to forgive yourself, but it does get easier with time, as well as identifying your hunger cues gets easier with time, and getting used to an eating schedule gets easier with time. Acknowledge that it happened. Take note of why you think it happened. What was the setting? What were you doing? What were you not doing? If you're able to remember like exactly what you were feeling when these things happened, that's great. Also take note of that. And then leave it in the past. Leave it in the past! Here's a list I have compiled. It is non-exhaustive and feel free to add to it. Go for a walk. This one's especially good, I think, when you're stressed and when you're sad. You can focus on your breathing. Do like a counting to 6 or whatever. Counting to 6, whatever number you want to choose. Not like, but like something calming. You can meditate. There's a lot of great guided meditations on YouTube, so you don't have to really stress about, oh, I don't know how to meditate. Guiding meditation on YouTube. really good tool for calming down. If your emotional eating isn't tied to like boredom, like when you sit down and like watch a show and then you just eat mindlessly, you can watch a show, you can watch a movie, drink some water. Sometimes we're not hungry or dehydrated. But don't use that to not eat, okay? Don't use that because it won't work like that. You still need to eat. Wait a little bit and assess if you're actually hungry. So you feel the sudden urge to eat, resist the urge. Wait like 30 minutes, because if you're really hungry, you're not going to pass away after 30 minutes. Most likely. Journaling, drawing, painting for my creatives. Take a shower or a bath. Showers and baths can be very soothing for many people. Or just do something else that you enjoy, something that I didn't list. You can work out if you want, you can call a friend, you can talk to someone. And on that note, if you do think you are experiencing something beyond just emotional eating, maybe something close to like debilitating, you might have a disorder, it's very difficult to function, I would recommend seeking professional help. I think professional help can be very beneficial and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And that goes for everyone out there. I know it's kind of stereotyped that like men don't seek help for these kind of things, but please do if you're struggling. Like, if anything, you will be a really good example to those around you who are also struggling that like, hey, it's okay that I get help. So, yeah. Anyway, gang, hopefully this video wasn't too much of a downer. Now, if you would please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe, and leave a silly comment below. If you have a coping skill that helps you through difficult times or boredom or sadness, XYZ, whatever, please share your coping skill with me and others. Thank you for watching. Adios. Okay, and for today's package opening from Deb over in India. Ooh, we got a little self-promo. Says, subscribe to Deb's Life at DebsLife_. Hello, Miss Patricia, it's me, Debs. I'm your biggest fan. So please take this gift as a token of appreciation. I chose items that both reflect me and my culture. Case and the posters reflect my love for design, and the shawls reflect my Indian culture, as it is handpicked by my mother. Regards, Debs. Ooh, a shawl. Ooh, they're beautiful. And another one. And a third one. Lovely stripes. Thank you, Deb and Deb's mom. A phone case with some little cartoon characters. And some posters designed by Deb himself. That is me. A Inosuke mask. And me, the boar inside. This one, beautiful design and an optical illusion. Ah, and me and my dog Malik and my 2 rats that died. This is a really spectacular gift. Thank you, Deb, and thank you, Deb's mom. Okay, adios, guys.